Su Mingyan, this is the result of your schemes. Guess what? You are now surrounded by my people. Isn't it hard to taste your betrayal? You're the one who's conspiring against me, you despicable character. Su Mingyuan had a knife buried in his chest, and the man who planted it was his most trusted aide. Gazing at him indifferently, the man who was in front of him was the male protagonist of this world, Xiao Ran, surrounded by numerous female leads. Some of those women showed joy in their eyes, and some had the same cold and sarcastic smile as Xiao Ran at the corners of their lips. Su Xulin, Su Mingyuan's sister, walked aside and turned her face away as if she couldn't endure looking at him, but she remained silent.
Su Mingyun, I overlooked you again and again for Zulan's sake, but you were too conceited. It's too late for you to be guilty now. This is what you get for going up against me. Slash. The knife was pulled out, and blood poured out uncontrollably from his chest. Su Mingyun fell to the ground, his face contorted in pain and resentment as he gazed at Xiao Ran. But in his heart, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. I kept on fighting Xiao Ran and was beaten and humiliated by him, enough that I ended up like this in the end. Can I be regarded as a qualified villain? Finally, I have accumulated enough villain value of 100,000 to return to Earth. After being transmigrated as the villain in Dragon Proud Sky, Urban Supremacy Emperor, Su Mingyun obtained the villain system. He was told that as long as he successfully acted as a villain and executed each scene according to the original novel's plot script, he would be able to obtain a large amount of villain points. Long Tian, Dragon Proud Sky, is a denigrating term for male protagonist of a light novel who is impossibly handsome and cocky, yet seems to get everything he wants. The better he acted, the more ridiculous he appeared, the more hits he got, the more villain points he would get each time. He could only return to Earth if he obtained 100,000 villain points. As a result, Su Mingyun worked hard to finish his role as the villain. According to the plot of the original novel, he kept causing trouble for Xiao Ran, the protagonist of this world, and then would repeatedly pretend to be punched in the face, let him berate and humiliate him. Up to this point, he finally saved enough points to cover the cost of his return home. System, send me home. Beep. Consuming 100,000 villain values, in the process of transmigrating. Ads by Pub Future. His life seemed to be fading slowly, and his body seemed to have no consciousness. Su Mingyun felt that there was darkness in front of him, and his soul seemed to be floating in a chaotic and boundless space. He is finally able to return to Earth, to his hometown. Lying on the ground was his cold corpse. Xiao Ran embraced the beautiful heroines, and his mood lifted. He had no idea that Su Mingyuan's death, and the fact that his soul had forcibly broken through the world barrier with the system's assistance, had harmed the origin of his own world. A mysterious aura that had been endowed on him had dissipated invisibly. At the same time, Su Mingyun, whose soul had broken through the world's barrier and was trying to cross, heard a system alarm sound in his ear. Beep, tick, tick, warning, warning. Encounter a sudden turbulence in time and space. Encounter a sudden turbulence in time and space. Closing square bracket. The transmigration has been forcefully terminated. The transmigration has been forcefully terminated. Boom. It was as if disorder had only recently begun and the world had been reset. Su Mingyun opened his eyes and suddenly woke up from the spring mattress bed in the villa. System, what's going on? Host, I'm sorry to inform you that, as a result of the sudden turbulence in time and space encountered during the transmigrating, all of us who are involved in the turbulence in time and space have returned to the world of Urban Supremacy Emperor, and were rewinded to the first day you arrived in this world. In other words, if you want to return to Earth, you must play the villain role once more in order to accumulate villain points. Again. Do it all over again. Su Mingyuan's heart suddenly fell into the abyss. The only good news is that, while the process of returning to Earth has been halted, the 100,000 villain points value you have accumulated have been reduced to 50,000, and this time, you only need to save 50,000 villain points to return to Earth. 50,000, this time, it only takes 50,000. Su Mingyun's fists clenched, and his mood improved. It's merely a matter of acting again. The required villain value is half of what it was the last time, and my acting abilities have improved significantly since the last time. I'm able to deliver stronger performances and am able to acquire a greater number of villain points more quickly. After 2 years of playing the villain role, Soo Min-young learned to find joy in the sorrows a long time ago. For the first time, as the villain, he took the initiative to visit the protagonist Seo Ran and pretentiously punched his face. If he didn't have a sufficiently optimistic attitude, Soo Min-young's mentality would have collapsed long ago. Think of it as acting in a full-length drama. This time, he will complete the script faster and better. It took him 2 years to complete his villain's fate, and he managed to scrape together 100,000 points. This time, he vowed to do better, and perhaps finish in a year. No, in less than a year, he must accumulate the 50,000 villain points in half a year. He would taunt Mo in front of the male and female protagonists, attract their hatred, and then be punched in the face by them. Anyway, this was just an act. After sorting out his mentality, Soo Min-young sat up from the bed, quickly changed his clothes, and prepared to leave the villa and start his first performance. Soo Min-young, the Soo family's eldest child and one of the 4 well-known dudes in Ming City, loves wine, luxury cars, dandy jade, and great women. Unprofessional, ignorant, reliant on the family's power, he established a second-tier entertainment company solely for him to help achieve his desire for women and conveniently pursued the big celebrity, Liu Mengning. Because Liu Mengning was not only a well-known actress in the country, but also because her appearance seems to be flawless, her temperament was indeed perfect, and her true identity was the eldest miss of the Liu family, one of the 4 major families. Whether appearance or identity, there was an unbounded point of interest for Soo Min-young, a lascivious man. Recently, the movie, Peerless Beauty, starring Liu Mengning was in the preparatory stage, and it was just looking for investors. Soo Min-young naturally wanted to get involved, thinking that as a film investor, Liu Mengning would have to give face to have a meal with him. At that time, he would find a private room, and then he could. Soo Min-young went to the company today to arrange this matter. His, Min-young Entertainment Company, must become one of the investors in Peerless Beauty. Then he would meet the new intern in the company, Seo Ruruo, the younger sister of the male protagonist, Seo Ran, who was attracted by her astonishing beauty. Just as he was about to create a small move, he was stopped by Seo Ran. The male protagonist rushed to the scene, and the two sides got into trouble for the first time. This was the first time in the original novel he made a feud with the male protagonist as a villain. The above were all the fate trajectories that the original dandy Soo Min-young should have: shameless, lascivious, ignorant, and the like, and it had nothing to do with the current Soo Min-young. He had always been a good and upright young man, but he had to perform like this in order to get enough money for the trip home. And from now on, not only would he have to play such a shameless and ugly villain, but he would also be, and he will be better than the Soo Min-young in the original novel. After being naturalized again, he can now proudly proclaim, "Acting as a villain, I am professional. Master Soo, we have reached the company." "All right," Soo Min-young answered coldly. On the other side, his bodyguard took the initiative to step out of the car and open the door for him. Displayed in front of this high-rise building was the name of his company, Min-young Entertainment Company. He owned this building. Despite the fact that land prices in Ming capital were expensive, as the only son of the Soo family, one of the 4 major families, why should he rent someone else's land for the foundation of his company? Why not buy instead of renting? As he entered the company, 2 bodyguards surrounded him, and the employees they passed kept their heads lowered to welcome him, showing their respect for him. The majority of the employees at this company were women. Not just women, but beautiful women. Because Soo Min-young liked beautiful women, his company should obviously have beautiful women. When it came to employment at this company, skill was not the most important factor, rather, it was a person's outward appearance. Unfortunately, Because his sister Su Zulan couldn't handle his excessive behavior anymore, she intervened. She had hired a group of skilled staff to come over and inspect him on a regular basis, barring him from messing around in the company. This company only existed as his harem. After all, he was an ignorant and unskilled guy who had repeatedly disappointed his father. Su Zulan, his sister, was in charge of the family company and several other affairs. If he offended his sister, Su Zulan would reveal not just his actions to their father, but would also expose his reason for founding a company to pursue women. Once he returned home, he, the Su family's young master, would almost undoubtedly be beaten and have his financial resources seized. As a result, Su Mingyung was cautious and only acted on a tiny idea occasionally. He could only harass female employees in the company in a frivolous manner. He did not dare to commit truly lascivious acts during the day. Young Master Su, everyone is in the conference room waiting for your instructions. The general manager of the company came over with an obsequious smile. She was a plain-looking middle-aged woman who possessed not only great management ability, but also the ability to adapt to his expectations. Each time Su Mingyung went to the conference room, he needed to be accompanied by a fair and lovely intern secretary who could serve him warm tea. Su Mingyung would naturally avoid placing a flower vase someone who is pretty but useless in such a prominent position in consideration of Su Zuolan's warning. As for Su Mingyung, he ordered a group of senior corporate executives to go to the conference room early and wait for him to hold a meeting, but he wouldn't show up. That's my style, and I've paid them enough to handle this type of situation. Secretary Seo Ruruo, right. I will call you Ruruo. You lead the way ahead. Quote. Yes, President Su. Quote. In response, Seo Ruruo nodded nervously. Su Mingyung glanced at her lovely curves and walking manner with impudent eyes as she led the way uneasily. There was nothing that could be done. He had been a decent gentleman in his previous life, where he used to look at beautiful women with admiring and subtle eyes. But now, as a villain, he stared at Seo Ruruo with such an unrestrained and audacious evil look that said he couldn't wait to strip her down. He, too, did not want to. As if she perceived his sight, the tip of her ear turned a little red. Su Mingyung noticed that her right hand was tightly clutching the corner of her clothes as she walked to his office door. She was obviously nervous. I'm sorry, but for my villain points, you must bear the consequences of what I'll do later. However, it was all because of the damn author of this novel, who wrote such a scene, that she was destined to suffer in this world. 2 guards came and stood at the door of the office to prevent anyone from intruding or eavesdropping. And Su Mingyung, who had already closed the door, sat in his chair and ordered Seo Ruruo, who was feeling extremely nervous and uneasy. Come here. Su Mingyuan's office was large. It was lavishly decorated, with expensive carpet on the floor, desks made of fine wood, and 2 rows of sideboards on either side, one for various famous wines and the other for exquisite jade. This office had a secret door that led to a beautiful bedroom with a bathroom. Su Mingyung seemed to have a liking for good wine and exquisite jade and wore a piece of dragon chalcedony jade around his waist all year. It was said that the jade was made from natural materials and gems, which could be traced back to the Qi refining period of the pre-Qin dynasty. It was more precious and it was rarer than the Hettian jade that the public often hears. It was said that it was made from natural materials and gems, which could be traced back to the Qi refining period of the pre-Qin dynasty. It was more precious and it was rarer than the Hettian jade that the public often hears. In his previous life, Su Mingyung would be in this office, hiding in the bedroom, toying with precious jades, drinking great wine, indulging in pleasure, and embracing the beauties. As one would say, fine jade is beauty, delicious wine drunk beauty. And Seo Ruruo was one of the most beautiful women that Su Mingyung had ever seen. After all, she is one of the female protagonists. Come here. Hearing his order, Seo Ruruo approached him timidly. As she drew near, her look became even more stunning. Her face was like an autumn moon, her eyebrows were beautiful. Her beauty demeanor was like a lotus flower in a river garden. She was still attending school, and had not been exposed to the dirty society. The way she looked at things with those clear eyes made it hard for people not to be drawn in. President Su, I only came to the company for an internship yesterday. I don't know much about the company's affairs and the specific situation. Her voice was also gentle and timid, which made people want to bully her in some way. Su Mingyun smiled as he carefully picked up a report off the table. Am I here to ask you to report company affairs to me? Ruruo, the moment you enter this office, you should be ready by heart, right? The smile on Su Mingyuan's face at this moment made Seo Ruruo a little scared. President Su, I don't understand what you are talking about. She clearly didn't understand because her character in the novel was a good nor a bad person. In this world, she was indeed like this. Although her family had an unforeseen event and older brother Shoran fell to the orphanage to survive, she had always maintained a pure and beautiful heart while growing up. She did not know that she had been chosen as an intern secretary because Sumi saw her outstanding appearance and thought that it was good luck that the general manager chose her from a group of competing classmates. However, she would soon understand. Ads by Pub Future. Don't understand. Su Mingyun chuckled as he stared at her. Didn't Sumi tell you? What happened to the woman who became my intern secretary and entered this office? Quote. What happens? Quote. Su Mingyun abruptly rose from his boss chair, his towering frame standing across Seo Ruruo like a lion. The sunlight behind him cast a long shadow along his body, like a starving falcon swooping down on its prey. He lifted Seo Ruruo's chin frivolously, caressed his fingers across her silky white and fragile skin, and whispered in her ear, "What will happen? Even if you're naive, shouldn't you have guessed it by now? You know, this office also has a hidden bedroom that was designed exclusively for me to have fun with the women. Inside, there is a very big and soft bed. You will later lie on it obediently." Quote. You should never have slept in such a comfortable and luxurious bed, right? Hearing this, Seo Ruruo still didn't understand Su Mingyuan's meaning. No, don't. Quote. President Su, I'm just an intern secretary. It's not suitable for me. She slapped Su Mingyuan's hand away in panic and turned to leave. However, the office door was already closed when Su Mingyun came in. And it was locked. Furthermore, there had been two devoted bodyguards at the door, guarding side by side. She seems to have no means of escape. After being slapped by Seo Ruruo, Su Mingyun was not annoyed, and turned back to his desk. He enjoyed seeing beautiful women display such fear. Moreover, he needed to give the male protagonist, Seo Ran, enough time to get here and stop him. After all, as a villain, how could he touch the main protagonist's woman? Touching her hands and her face was already at the top of the sky. As for wanting to go further, he doesn't even think about it. Urban Supremacy Emperor is a cool novel that is perfect for reading without a brain, but it's not a novel that describes giving men the authority to go beyond. He was free to assault, abduct, and physically ridicule the female protagonists, but he was not allowed to excessively attack their bodies. However, this female protagonist is a part of Seo Ran's harem. How can I, as a villain, dare to make a move on her? Ads by Pub Future. What if I dared? My villain value will be lessened. Su Mingyun couldn't understand why that was the case. Wouldn't things be fair for a villain if they could act boldly against a female protagonist? Why should his villain points be reduced? However, this was what the system incessantly warned him about, the system that didn't dare let him transmigrate into a cool online novel like Condor Heroes or The Sentimental Swordsman. Su Mingyung once had a dumb idea and asked the system, although I can't take the initiative to sexually assault women, what if one day these women's nerves flare up and shove me back? The system replied like this. As long as it is not the host's initiative, your villain value will not be deducted. However, the host should avoid being pretentious. Unless the world's origin gets severely damaged, the world will go dormant, and the aura of the male protagonist ceases to exist. This kind of thing will never happen. Haha, I'm just kidding. Quote. Su Mingyung had laughed at the time, and never had such a ridiculous idea in his heart again. Su Mingyung did not make direct contact with Seo Ruruo at this time, instead he picked up the report on the table. It was a report that recorded Seo Ruruo's personal information. Meanwhile, Shiazuki, the newly appointed president of Shanmei Company and Su Mingyuan's fiancé, had appointed the male protagonist, Seo Ran, as her bodyguard. Currently, he was chatting with another colleague in their security company. A few days ago, Shiazuki, the president of a cosmetics company, accidentally encountered a thief while shopping. Fortunately, she was rescued by Seo Ran, who had just returned to the capital. Seeing that he was very capable, Shiazuki offered him a high salary and asked him to be her assistant. His main duty was to guard her safety. Ming City's law and order had always been excellent. No one knew why a thief appeared that day, and the robber just stole Shiazuki's belongings. Nonetheless, the thief had collided with Seo Ran, prompting him to stage the hero saves the beauty. At this moment, while Shiazuki was working in the office, Seo Ran and his colleagues were chatting in a low voice outside the office. I didn't expect that Brother Yang was originally the runner-up in the National Mixed Martial Arts competition. Forgive me, my skill is simply subpar. You worked as a bodyguard in another country and learned some shooting skills. You must be much stronger than me. There is no way. Unfortunately, my sister is not in good health, and she needs money to treat her illness. Quote. You have a younger sister. Quote. Yes, she went to school at Ming City Film Academy and is currently working as an intern for an entertainment company. I think the name of the company is Mingyung Entertainment Company. Mingyung Entertainment Company. What's the matter, Brother Yang? Quote. Su Mingyung, the boss of Mingyung Entertainment Company, is one of the 4 great devils in Ming City, who seem to have a liking for good wine, fine jade and beautiful women. It is said that he has to change his secretary every month. He needs an intern secretary, but you can probably guess what it really is. Seo Ran, your sister, she will not simply. Suddenly his face darkened. Brother Yang, please request a leave of absence from President Xia for me. I'm very worried. I have to go and see my sister. With no way out, Seo Ruruo turned around and begged Su Mingyung. President Su, I'm still studying. Quote. I'm not going to tell anyone what's going on here. Please let me go. I don't want a penny of your pay. You want me to let you go? Ruruo, you really are quite naive. Su Mingyan sneered at her. Did you think I'd let you go that easily after you enter my office? Su Mingyun smiled as he flipped through the report in his hand. You know what these are? These files contain information about your personal life, background, and social circle. He leaned on his elbows against the table and looked at Seoruruo with eagle-sharp eyes. He was clearly seated, and Seoruruo stood in front of him, but Seoruruo's head was lowered, and it appeared as though he was looking down at her pretentiously. "Do you know what it means to offend me?" Seoruruo did not respond, but her pursed lips and clenched fists showed her uneasiness. The man in front of her was not rude, but his words felt as if a big invisible hand had enclosed around her waist and was holding her tightly. Seeing that Seoruruo did not answer, Su Mingyung continued. "Although my company is only a second-tier entertainment company, I have a lot of contacts in the entertainment industry, not to mention my status as the young master of the Su family. Moreover, you are just a college student with no background, and are just a student studying at the Ming City Film Academy. Ruruo, your college entrance examination results were excellent, and you could have attended a top-tier university. Instead you chose Ming City Film Academy. The reason is because you dream of becoming a star, correct? You are just a novice without fame. As long as I say just one word, and ban you, no one in the entertainment world would spare any effort to give me some face. No one will want you for any entertainment-related work. Your peers and professors will avoid you and hate you because you have offended me. Your studies and efforts are equivalent to just being wasted. Your dreams will fade and end, and your future outlook will be cut off." Quote. Su Mingyung raised a finger. "Ruruo, this is just one of the consequences you will face if you offend me. You are so shameless." Quote. Seoruruo was trembling with anger. Perhaps, she was indeed naive. She had no idea that such a wicked and shameless person such as Su Mingyung existed in this world. Su Mingyung didn't care about her rebuke and added, "Ruruo, I read about your experiences in life. You are so kind and caring. Although you grew up in an orphanage, you don't feel aggrieved. Ads by Pub Future. You frequently use the money you earned from your hard work and part-time job to buy items for the orphanage. You have an outstanding appearance, are kind-hearted, and have such bright dreams. But you are short of money. I'm not sure you've seen how much compensation is included in the internship contract you signed with my company for breach of contract." The corners of his mouth turned up as he raised two fingers. "It's $500,000. Seoruruo's pretty face turned pale in an instant, and a trace of despair flashed in her eyes. Looking at the beauty's desperate appearance, Su Mingyuan's eyes showed a trace of undisguised joy and the corners of his mouth shifted into an evil smile. "With this acting, I am afraid that no one would not be able to believe that he is not a villain. In order to play such a disgusting villain, I put so much effort into this role. Ruruo, there is more. Despite the fact that Ming City has always been a safe place, you've probably heard stories of the city's red light district. They are the rats in the gutter, hiding in the fetid night and quietly attacking innocent passers-by. They do all kinds of evil, they rape and loot, they are full of bad people, bad assholes. Ruruo, after offending me, I can't guarantee that you will encounter these hateful bastards when you walk down the street one day." Su Mingyung smiled, as if just telling some trivial facts. Then, at the end, the real motive was revealed and an option was given. "So, Seoruruo, have you thought about it? Would you choose to climb into my bed obediently, or choose to take the risk to offend me?" The smile on his face faded, and his cold gaze was like a tall mountain pressing onto Seoruruo's head, and those sharp words were like a stinging cool breeze. It pierced her will like a sharp knife. He seemed to be asking, but he had blocked any possible excuse Seoruruo could give to refuse. "Dreams, future, money, life, safety. That invisible big hand had completely clenched her firmly, causing her misery, suffocating her, and cutting her right to refuse. It left her with no choice but to yield. Would she choose to surrender? Of course it is impossible. Su Mingyun was waiting for Seo Ruruo's outburst. She was one of the novel's female protagonists and a part of Seo Ran's harem. Although she is pure and kind, and appears weak and frightened, nonetheless, her disposition is soft on the outside and firm inside, but she'll never surrender to this villain. Su Mingyun is now in a good mood. For the first time, he felt that his performance had been perfect. Such control, such a manner, would undoubtedly make Seo Ruruo despise him. When the time comes, Seo Ran will be filled with rage and will ridicule him in front of Seo Ruruo for being despicable. This time, I will undoubtedly earn an A+. Come on, Seo Ruruo. Show me your rage, your furious scolding. Su Mingyun looked at Seo Ruruo with excitement, and noticed that she had lowered her head in silence in front of him, and had clenched her fist tightly. He could see her trembling with anger, and her chest was shivering as she inhaled. In the next moment, he saw that she was looking at him without fear. Her lower back was ramrod straight, her clear eyes were burning with flames, and her beautiful face was flushed with rage. Although desperate beauty is appealing, furious beauty has an even more unique quality. Su Mingyun smirked and waited for Seo Ruruo's outburst. He watched her approach. She stood still in front of him and bent down. President Su, I do not wish to lose any future possibilities in my dreams, nor do I. I cannot afford a breach of contract, and I am also afraid of dying, so I. Her head was lowered. I know I was wrong. Quote, She surrendered. She surrendered. How can it be? Su Mingyun was shocked. In his previous life, before he succeeded, he was severely reprimanded by Seo Ruruo. She had pointed at his face and vowed that she would never surrender to a shameless and disgusting bastard like him. But now, she gave in. Is this the same Seo Ruruo as before? It is so contradictory to her character. No, it's impossible. She must be deceiving me. Perhaps she pretended to be weak and is choosing to hold me down in the meantime in order to find a chance to counterattack. Yes, it must be like this. Su Mingyun got up abruptly, turned his back to Seo Ruruo to hide the consternation in his eyes, and went to get the wine in the cupboard. Regardless of whether Seo Ruruo was pretending or not, he must continue with his acting. His personality cannot collapse, and his performance must not collapse. He is Su Mingyun, a despicable villain who coerced Seo Ruruo to sleep with him. It's not over yet. As the wine seal was opened, the rich red wine oozed into the glass like hot desire. Seo Ruruo, I like delicious wine, and I also like beauties. Su Mingyun went over to Seo Ruruo with a glass of wine in hand and said, Since you've chosen to give in, drink a glass of wine before we get started. President Su, I don't know how to drink. Well, now you will know, said Su Mingyun, shoving the edge of the cup firmly towards her lips. Also, you don't have to address me as President Su when we are alone. You must address me as Master. Do you understand? Now, open your mouth. The crystal clear edge of the glass was pressed against Seo Ruruo's lips. The wine swishing in the glass reflected Su Mingyuan's attractive and sinister face, that was like a vicious dragon that had opened its gigantic mouth in a blatant attempt to eat the people in front of him. She could not resist. Seo Ruruo was forced to open her mouth. Her quite attractive and moist lips gently brushed against the edge of the glass, tempting him to kiss. Under Su Mingyuan's heated gaze, the red wine slid down her lips, showing off her pearly white teeth behind those red lips, and a slightly discernible pinkish tongue in the deepest area. Xiao Ruruo drank the red wine, savoring every sip. This experience is truly astounding. It's no wonder that people prefer to play villains. Cough, cough. Xiao Ruruo coughed uncomfortably after drinking a glass of wine all at once. She clutched her chest as if she had been choked. After drinking the wine, she felt as if a fire had been abruptly lit in her stomach, leaving her with a burning sensation and a peculiar blush forming on her supple face. She doesn't drink alcohol and doesn't like to drink alcohol. Even if a glass of wine in front of her was worth $1,000 or a mouthful of wine was equal to a month's wage for the average person like her, she felt wine was truly a bad thing to drink. However, Su Mingyung had already poured her another glass of wine. Ruruo, I like to see a beauty like you drunk in my arms, so come and have another glass of wine. With another glass of wine in his hand, Su Mingyung listened to her speak again in a calm way, but her eyes were filled with unwillingness. President Su, I'm really not a drinker. President Su, you still call me President Su. Quote. Su Mingyuan's eyes sank. He reached out with his hand and pinched her chin. Xiao Ruruo, you said you will do what I order, but your actions don't match your words. He was still whispering softly a second ago, but in the blink of an eye, his face was filled with ruthlessness and his two fingers gripped Xiao Ruruo's cheek, causing her pain. Ads by Pub Future. It looks like I must enlighten you of the consequences of offending me. One is to whip you, so you understand that you have no right to refuse in front of me. You will learn how to crawl under my feet in order to become an obedient lamb. Xiao Ruruo's eyes trembled under his fierce assault, as if she were facing a terrible and violent terrifying beast from the depths of hell. She couldn't muster the slightest courage to resist. She bit her lip and admitted her mistake. I know I am wrong. I'll drink. Only then did Su Mingyung let go of her chin, stuff the glass of wine into Xiao Ruruo's hand, and sat back in his boss's chair with a big grin. He watched her raise the wine glass, open her mouth, and then forcibly drink the red wine slowly. Cough, cough. She really felt uncomfortable, as if she were intolerant to alcohol. She coughed violently, her skin flushed from alcohol, and the corners of her eyes teared up. Su Mingyung did not care about her discomfort, but instead he was satisfied with her behavior and even clapped his palms and said, "Very good, very good. As long as you are obedient to me, I will not hesitate to reward you. Aren't you dreaming of becoming a bright star? Perhaps you have heard about the new movie that Liu Mengning is working on. I will become her investor soon, and there will be no problem putting you into the movie as a third supporting actress or fourth, as long as you." He stood up and gently stroked Xiao Ruruo's face. "Listen to me obediently." Quote. I got it. I thank Master. In order to express my sincere gratitude to Master, I would like to offer a toast to Master. Quote. Xiao Ruruo took the initiative to pour a glass of wine and hand it to Su Mingyung. "I don't mind if you give me toasts, but..." Su Mingyung did not take the wine glass, but instead held her chin softly with his hand. "The wine in the glass has lost its taste. What I want to drink is the fine wine that was fed from the mouth of a beautiful woman like you." Quote. Su Mingyung looked down at Xiao Ruruo's beautiful face, and slowly showed a desperate smile. This time, no matter how patient Xiao Ruruo is, she would not be able to bear it, right? Will she really obey his orders and feed him mouth to mouth the wine? Of course not. She is not a weak little white rabbit. She has been tough since she grew up in an orphanage. Even if she pretended to be a little white rabbit, her acting is not that great. She couldn't even address him as master properly. Sure enough, Su Mingyun, who looked at her closely, noticed a hint of rage in Seo Ruruo's trembling eyes. Sure enough, she didn't submit. How could she submit to such a shameless villain as himself? Su Mingyun noticed that the wine glass she was holding was slightly swaying, causing the wine to ripple in a circle. What will she do? Will she furiously splash the wine to his face? Or break the wine glass and use the sharp fragments of glass as a weapon to protect herself or threaten me? In any case, he had been mentally prepared. He is the villain who is used to being slapped in the face by the protagonist, and to show the protagonist's perseverance. So, Seo Ruruo, what will you do? Seeing the flames burning in Seo Ruruo's eyes getting stronger and stronger, Su Mingyun decided to put out the fire. He asked, Seo Ruruo, don't you want to give me the toast? Why don't you come and feed the wine to me? Seo Ruruo's hand on the wine glass tightened. She raised the glass and stared at Su Mingyun without blinking. Her expression was full of anger and seemed to be mixed with more complex emotions. She said, okay. The scarlet wine flowed through her honey-sweet lips and pearl-like pure white teeth. She raised her head, stood on tiptoe and kissed Su Mingyun fiercely with an unbelievable expression. Su Mingyun wanted to drink a fine wine that was more fragrant and delicious than those precious wines, so she delivered it to him. Su Mingyun asked her to feed it with her mouth, so she fed it to him with her mouth. She is not a weak little white rabbit, not a weak woman who can be blackmailed by others with a few words. She never was. She opened her eyes wide and was delighted to see Su Mingyuan's wide-eyed eyes, the look of surprise on his face. She slowly poured the wine from her mouth down into his mouth. At this moment, she was now looking down at Su Mingyun. The mellow wine was excellent, but Su Mingyun didn't have time to enjoy it. His body stiffened, his mind went blank, and only incomprehensible screams could be heard within. How is this possible? How is this possible? The Seo Ruruo I know, the Seo Ruruo I knew, would never have been able to do such an act. How could she have been so stubborn as to kiss a villain? Meanwhile, there was a loud banging outside the door, followed by the sound of someone pounding the door hard. Bang! Bang! Ruruo, are you okay? I will come to save you right away. Quote. There was an anxious shout from a man outside the door. Seo Ran, the male protagonist of this world, has finally come. Why? How could this be? Obviously, he should have humiliated Seo Ruruo and forced her to submit to him for being stubborn, and then she would have thrown the wine onto his face. Why? Why did it become like this? Once, Su Mingyun had thought about how interesting a sight it would be if one day the female protagonists of this world would collapse and suddenly like him back. But he didn't expect that on the first day he played the villain again, Seo Ruruo, one of the female protagonists, would stubbornly kiss him on the lips. Seo Ruruo, you should hate me, hate me. How come you obey my commands and kiss me? And the way you did it was no different to a deep, passionate kiss. This is simply not funny at all. If things continue in this manner, his first act will certainly not receive good reviews. How will he be able to accumulate enough villain points quickly? Bang! 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 Outside the door of the office, Seo Ran smashed the door open. When Seo Ruruo heard her brother shouting and the loud banging of the door, she had already backed away and distanced herself from Su Mingyun. This time, Seo Ran had broken the door and was anxiously searching for his sister. Ruruo, are you you okay? Quote. Siu Ruruo was standing 2 meters away from Su Mingyun, unharmed, and nothing seemed to have happened between them. Hearing Siu Ran at this moment, she raised her head to see the 2 bodyguards that had been assigned to guard the door had been knocked to the ground by Siu Ran and the door had been smashed. She was taken aback. Brother, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Ruruo, are you alright? Siu Ran frowned. I'm okay. How could I possibly not be alright? At this moment, Su Mingyun came back to his senses. Adds by pub future. For whatever reason that Siu Ruruo's attitude changed, now that the male protagonist has arrived, he must grasp the opportunity to taunt him fiercely, arouse his hatred, arouse his anger, and make a big profit.